They kept him captive too. And these guys heard that some Indian got killed, and so they broke in and killed him. I don't know how many shots they shot into him, and it really riled the Shawnees up because he was their main chief, and there was a sad thing that happened to him there, and there was a war happened, the Dunmore War, after all that, because some hotheads got nasty and killed some people that they shouldn't have. But I thought that should be remembered, and that's why I painted that. St. Clair's Defeat there, that was one of the first ones I painted of historical paintings. In black and white. It's not that it's that old. I'm pretty old, but it's not that old. That was the only picture I had of it, and it was just put in the military magazine. There was a story written about it, and there's a lot of stories written about that. But the Indians beat the Americans there, and they retreated, and there was about 900 people killed at that battle. And if you've ever been up to Fort Recovery, they have a large monument there. And a little museum there you can go through and everything. And they're redoing it, by the way, so it should be pretty nice when they get it finished. But there's some historical characters on there, but I'll be here all afternoon if I keep talking about them. But we can go to the next one there. We're getting anxious to have some of that cider. Okay, Fort Finney there. That was the first treaty with the Shawnees here, and General Butler, he got killed at that fort, or the St. Clair's Defeat, and he's the one holding the treaty there. And Clark standing behind him, and Isaac Zane was an interpreter, and another Frenchman there, and a lot of the Shawnee and Wyandot chiefs there. And they brought their stuff in there to trade them and everything, and they got their wampum belts on the tables, and they tried to intimidate the Indians into signing. It was in the middle of winter, so they took those belts that they gave them and put them on the ground and stomped on them and stuff. So there was a lot of politics involved in the treaty making, but they signed it, and that was the start of a lot of their land being taken here in Ohio. And that happened right down here at the where the Great Miami goes into the Ohio at Cincinnati. Okay, Tar, he's a famous chief here with the Greenville Treaty Medal in his hand there. I painted that. That's up at Upper Sandusky. Just had a little drawing to go by on that one, and I filled it in and turned him around a little bit and drew him, and everybody likes that one. That's one in this fellow's book, and there's people out in Kansas, the Wyandots. There's two branches of the Wyandots. There's one in Kansas and one in Oklahoma, and the chief in Kansas takes us, every time she makes a speech, they put them on white board and blew them up, and she's got about 4 or 5 of my Wyandotte paintings, and she shows them every time, and she's been a real nice lady, tells me how the people appreciate seeing these. They had them on their website for a while, and then they disappeared, so I don't know if they'll put them back on or not. But that was Chief Tar. He was for the Americans in most of the wars after they were beaten up at Fallen Timbers. Okay, the one over there is got a kind of unique thing on it about waiting on Elliot there. You'll notice the tree in the background. If you still want to see a tree like this was called an Indian marker tree. What the Indians would do, the little guys appreciate this, they'd bend a little thin tree down and put a stone on it or something, and that pointed the direction to a trail or where there was food or where a village was and things like that. Maybe in Boy Scouts you've done something like that. And then these trees grew up over the years, and that tree, I painted it fairly small, but I got pictures of the tree now, and it's an enormous big thing, and it's still living, but it's rotting. Probably won't be there too much longer. But that points due north, and it's still up right out of the little town called Zanesfield. A lot of people go up there to see it. But anyhow, these Simon Girty was a real famous renegade. He's the guy on the black horse, and Alexander McKee was another one like him, and they were waiting on Elliot. These 3 guys left the Americans at Pittsburgh and went and joined the British, and they kept instigating the Indians to fight the Americans here, and the fellow that wanted this painting wanted that tree in the background, so Alexander McKee had a trading post up there, and Girty was all over Ohio, so it was an easy spot to put him in, and that probably did happen at one time, but can't say for sure on that one. Okay, this one down here is not too far from here. It's called War Council at Laramie Store. And Peter Laramie was a Frenchman that came down and up at Fort Laramie, Ohio, right north of Piqua. He had a trading post, and the Indians would all deal with him there, and they called him their father because he just treated them so well. In fact, he led a big part of the tribe down to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, when they started leaving this area, and set up a post down there, and they still celebrate him down there. He's called Louis Larimer, and there's a red trading post and everything down there that you can go see. But he had a place up there, and I've been on the grounds and everything where he had the village. And I have a General Byrd of the British came down, and then they had, I don't know, 600 or 700 Indians. And I have Alexander McKee with a little different wig on there in that spot. And they're doing a war council there, and Laramie's supplying them with supplies, and the chiefs are talking it over. They went down across the Ohio River, and they captured a lot of people. You may have heard of Bryan Station and Ruddle Station, and they had a lot of captives. Took them up to Detroit, and it's in all the history books you might want to read about it. It's a pretty sad thing. They had cannons and everything and made them surrender. And I just thought that was neat because it was here locally. You can drive up there and see the thing in a half hour where this all happened at. So. And the next one there is one I want to talk about over here, so I might as well just do it right now. This is called Washington Presenting the Medal to Red Jacket. Washington was trying to get the Iroquois Indians to have influence on the Indians around here. They called them the Western Indians at that time. That was the Miamis and the Shawnee and Wyandots and everything, to have them make peace because they wanted to use the Ohio River as a boundary, and the whites didn't, and that's when they had all the Indian wars where Harmer and St. Clair and Wayne went up through this area and had all those battles. Well, Washington gave him a great big medal, and he would get drunk sometime and everything and hawk that medal, but he was so proud of it he never left it go until he died, and they didn't bury it with him, but he gave it to his descendants, and it's still in the Erie Museum up at Buffalo. But that medal became a famous thing, the Red Jacket medal. And in the background there, notice I painted a black and white picture. Well, that was Benjamin West's Penn's Treaty, and they had engravings back in that time instead of painting, so I painted it black and white because it was an engraving. And then I have a number of chiefs there, that like Corn Planter and those guys, and this was General Knox. He was Washington's war secretary, and Pickering, he was another fellow that helped with the treaties and everything. So I didn't think too much of that painting when I did it. I thought it turned out pretty good, but a fellow called me up after he saw it on the web and said he goes all over the country talking about Red Jacket, and he said that he has 88 pictures of Red Jacket. This is the best picture he has of him. That made me feel kind of good. He said everybody talks about that picture. And when the State Department called me about putting it with the Great Seal there, I figured, well, that must be one of my better ones then, because too many good things has happened with that one. So that's Red Jacket getting his medal, and that was one that would never had been painted before either. So. Okay, that one there is about Piqua. I didn't paint that one, so if we can just drop down a little bit more here. This is Chief Cornstalk, and I painted a portrait of him, and I never realized there were so many descendants of Cornstalk. But I get inquiries from all over the country stating that they're his descendants, and there's a curse of Cornstalk, believe it or not, also. When he died, they had a terrible time with his grave site. They transferred it a couple times and everything. And it was down at Point Pleasant when they had the UFO scare down there with the Mothman. They blew that all up, and they said it was Cornstalk's curse, and it caught on. And they still talk about Cornstalk's curse, and that they take this picture and they put it on. Well, they put it in a book. There were some fellows wrote a book about the weird things that's happened in each state. In West Virginia, they used this painting. It was on a video they showed to promote it and everything in that book, but they called it Cornstalk's curse. So if you ever see that,